Hello world and welcome back to another episode of the Advanced Wars by Web Grand Strategy Cast. On today's episode, we'll be covering day 48 of my Grand Strategy campaign, so let's get into the action. But first, a Wars World news update covering everything that's happened since our last episode. So immediately after the end of my turn on day 47 was Blue Moon's turn at the beginning of day 48. So to start, he moves his ships a little more inward towards the bay, and opens fire on red in the peninsula. It looks like he's going to continue to try to deny that peninsula to red. However, he moves his infantry, his artillery, and his tank back, perhaps to challenge me. He might actually be thinking I'm trying to keep those cities from him, when in reality I'm just kind of keeping my tanks there for a turn until I move them on upward. He's continuing to build up on his line with those medium tanks. He built another artillery piece, and he's continuing to kind of form up his line, although you can see some of these units that he's merging together. If he merges together two 4 HP units, he's still only left with a single 8 HP unit. And down here in the south, he does something I really don't like, which is he develops his battleships a little bit further closer towards my lines, and now he's within striking distance of my port and my rocket. And that's going to take us into Fire Red's turn on day 48. Red is going to continue to capture the territories along the coast and in the peninsula. But you see, he freezes right about here, and he doesn't do anything. And we spent a whole week waiting, and he didn't do nothing. And you can see Red, it looks like he has 10 seconds left to make a move. Oh no, say it isn't so! So his turn automatically ended. And that's going to take us to the present on day 48. Now, Blue Moon really doesn't seem to be in too great a shape to be launching an attack on me just yet, but of course they do have their Typhoon ready and waiting to go. I'm really not sure how to interpret these battleships moving into position. Is this an active aggression that I need to open fire on him right away? I mean, I do have a submarine right here. Or is this just him kind of flexing his muscle a little bit now that the pact between us is dissolved? I'm not entirely sure. I was waiting to see what Red would do, to see if Red was maybe in cahoots with Blue, maybe they were teaming up against me. But the fact that Red moved like 3 infantry units and then went AFK for a week kind of leads me to believe that they're not really working, in unison together, if you know what I mean. I mean, at this point, I definitely do have a territorial advantage, but I really want to emphasize how much more valuable the centralized property is compared to all this kind of outward property. It's much more densely packed. It's much more easily defensible. You've got a much smaller surface area to defend. You've got this ocean here, which is great for these Drake players. You don't have to worry about land borders to your east if you're blue, or your west if you're red, especially now that Cobalt's gone. So if these two were to team up against me, that would be extremely significant, and that may very well be the thing that could do me in. I think maybe Blue thinks I'm getting aggressive with him because I put these tanks here, but really, specifically, I just wanted the option to be able to actually get off of it the next turn and show him that I'm not getting too aggressive. Okay, so starting in the north, let's get this guy out, let's keep going. And let's finish our cap off here. That's great, because that'll heal him up to 10 hit points next turn. So if this guy can go to this one, and this guy can go to this one, then this guy can come over here, and drop him off on that one. This guy can come up here, and he can go to that one. Meanwhile, I think I'll just force march this guy as quickly as I can up to one of those northern properties. Yes, that's what I will do. So you're going to come up here, and you're actually going to wait right there. Meanwhile, you can move there and then deploy him there. Okay, now I'm going to protect my infantry on this factory. So let's get the cap here, and we should be getting that next turn. And then you can come up here on the periphery and block that flank. And you can come here and guard that flank. So this territory should be firmly secured for me now, and hopefully Blue sees that I'm not a threat to these properties here. This tank for now, we will slow walk him towards Red's lines. So So we'll take him up along the north here, and hopefully he can cover this building for me. Speaking of, what I can do is I can be sneaky. I can take this APC and just park it right there, and thank you. Now this property is mine. I won't make the same mistake that I made before with this property. I'm going to stick that APC there. I'm going to leave it there. I'm actually going to get a tank in here as soon as I can as well. And that's just one more property it looks like I can grab for myself, and this will mark the border of my territory. Honestly, I don't want to go too much further east, because any closer to the sea, and I'm going to start getting within the range of battleships. And that is not territory that I really want to be fighting within. Now let's continue this Neo tank along. Let everybody know I'm not fucking around along my northern border. I'm not entirely sure how to feel about these two properties. I feel like the safest bet is just to let Blue have them, because that'll keep him happy for now. But this property in particular is really kind of a halfway point between our properties. I'm gonna grab this one. Wouldn't be too out of line to grab either of these two as well. And then this property is an excellent choke point, so is that something I really want Blue to control? Alright, after much deliberation, ultimately I think I will continue to play nice with Blue Moon for now, just to avoid any sort of conflict. If I grab this property, I'm probably going to also want to hold this forest, and this mountain, and this forest, and maybe even this forest, maybe even this road tile right here. And then it's going to be just too much of a source of conflict here, so I think my best bet is to continue to just try to consolidate as much of this property as possible and maintain the peace while I do that. This infantry is of course going to sit on this mountain here, and I think this river is going to be a good delineation, continue to be a good delineation between our territories. Let's hope he's not about to attack me next turn. Let's actually keep this rocket here to hold this position. That's some pretty good coverage. That controls this half of the river. And this choke point into my territory, as well as the defensive territory up along here. So that's some pretty good coverage. And very importantly, it is only one turn of movement, both into the city and back into the forest. Now, rockets move on wheels, so that means this plane costs 2, and this city costs 1 movement point. So that's 3. And then on the way back, this plane costs 2. This force costs 3, so that's 5 total, but that's still just, you know, rockets have 5 movement, so that's exactly 1 turn of movement back and forth. Sitting on this forest, I get not only the defensive bonus, but again, the lash offensive bonus, so this is some pretty good coverage. Rockets are really doing a good job of giving me coverage throughout the lines, as you can see, so they really help me make the most of a limited population cap. North, let's continue to slow walk some of my units a bit. Do not want to get into contact with red too quickly. I would rather spend my time capturing territory. I think here in the mid I've just about perfected a defensive line with a limited population cap. I think what I'll do, since a typhoon could be coming any turn now, I'll actually have these guys actually in reserve on the property, so that if a typhoon ever does hit, as soon as my turn comes around again, they will be repaired back up to 10 health, and then I can march them out to deal with any potential blue offensive through the typhoon. So there's really not too much else that I need to do here, although I will repair that infantry. Finally, he's up to 10 health. Here in the south, a very similar situation where I'm fairly happy with where things are now, and just about everybody's up to 10 health. So let us address that. This guy's kind of low on fuel as well, so let's combine them. Join, bam, you're up to 10. You move up to the front, you cross the river like that, then you come in behind to back up the mech. Now I do feel pretty strongly about this line here. The biggest potential weakness is these battleships, and I just don't know what Blue's intentions are. If Blue and Red team up against me, I could be in trouble. Even if Blue wants to try to sucker punch me out of nowhere, battleships controlling this bay is really what's going to decide any sort of land battle within this region. It's great to have the rockets, so does he. It's great to have the medium tanks, so does he. It's great to have the tanks and the infantry, but you know what, so does he. I do have an economic advantage, but that may or may not be enough to actually overcome if he has multiple battleships along the coastline just endlessly bombarding me. So I'm really not sure if I should attack him at this point. I could deal a nice 5 damage to this battleship here. I'm not sure if that would accomplish anything or be enough. And as aggressive as this action is, I don't know what his intentions are, so I don't want to, unnecessarily start a conflict. But I don't have to, especially not before I've captured all this property and repaired this fleet up and, really gotten maximally prepared for a fight. So I think what I what I can do, okay, I can challenge him with a harmless black boat. And I can move this out here like so. That's going to block his movement. That's going to pin him in a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm also going to refuel this submarine while it's at it. Oh, bam, back up to 60. That's actually extremely helpful. I'm challenging him with a black boat. Refueling this sub. He doesn't even realize I'm refueling this sub here. Meanwhile, I have a submerged sub that is ready to strike. I guess I'll move out my lander as well to really up the intimidation factor. Like, look out, buddy, I got a lander coming your way. And I will try to pin in his battleship and his cruiser with my cruiser. Now, if anyone tries to come through this battleship and come up this way, my sub will spot him, as well as if anyone moves into this tile here, I'll notice him. If he tries to scout ahead with a submarine, I may be able to just trap it here. Okay, the naval situation in this bay is something I'm gonna have to come back to, circle back on. Let's check everything else out down here. Let's get another capture in, another 5 points, down to 5. So hopefully I should be finally capturing this property next turn. It'll be nice to have this port, this property, and an infantry on this property defending the island. One more turn of repairs on my battleship. I'm wondering if I should just pull him forward and just have all my black boats do all the repairs. Am I good now? Am I safe to do that? Okay, let's get the capture in here. There we go. Now this is my property as well. Very nice of Red to just let me grab it like that. Let's get this battleship here. Oh, beautiful defensive position. Covering this reef, covering this reef, covering this entire way. And, of course, I get the defensive and an offensive bonus. Okay, actually, yeah, let's get this battleship out as quickly as we can, because potentially Blue could be making moves over here, so I need to be as ready as possible. Now, with this sub, I'm not entirely sure what to do. Do I move him north to cover my battleship and any potential Red aggression, or do I move it west to potentially move in to deal with Blue's fleet? Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll take this sub and I'll line it up with a straight shot west. If I need to steam full that way, I can do that. And I can also get in a bunch of turns of repairs. I think I'll pull this cruiser back to right in front of this battleship. That'll give him... even in the reef, that'll give him a little more coverage from subs attacking him from this most likely direction. Meanwhile, this reef is actually perfectly positioned to be exactly one turn away. If I want to develop this cruiser out to this reef in one turn, I can do that right there. Up in this northern bay here, I am feeling pretty penned in. You look at all this artillery that Blue has put up here as a big deliberate FU to all my ships. And meanwhile, you also have this entire fleet of ships down here really kind of pinning me in. One thing I did notice is that Blue Moon is also up to 97 unit cap finally, along with me. And it took Blue a lot longer to get there, but now they're there. And the important thing to keep in mind is when you are close to that 100 unit cap, that is kind of a limiting factor for all players across the board, regardless of how much money you have or your income or anything like that. So now that I know that Blue is very close to the unit cap limit, I know he's not going to be able to make any more than 3 units in a turn. So I don't need to worry about him putting out a bunch of units in some factory somewhere that snowballs into a big problem that I need to deal with. Nope, he can only make 3 units next turn. What that also means down here as well is you can see this island, it's only got 2 infantry on it. So if I can get him up to the 100 unit cap up here, then I can move in to take this island in the south here, and he won't even have the unit cap to build units here to defend it. And then coming back down to the south here, I can do a tiny bit of rearranging, move that guy there, move that guy there. Then what I can do is I can actually keep a tank back here, because those 6 movement spaces are going to allow it to come all the way up here if I need it to. That's basically a turn 1 response to anything that Blue might threaten anyways, so I might as well keep him back here prepared and ready to go. again on a city so that if he takes damage, he repairs back up to the full 10 HP. And particularly what that allows me to do is that allows me to put my medium tank on this property. Now, instead of holding the line here on this grass, what I'll actually be doing is he'll be doing a similar function just on this city here. The reason for that, can then move another tank there, and he'll be sitting on the plains, defending this road here. This medium tank can then go sit on this property. Again, if I get attacked or anything, they're on 3-star cover, so that's excellent defensive cover. And this is exactly the kind of position you want to have a medium tank in. You want to already have them in cover, and they're excellent units in those conditions. But also, if I take any damage or if I get hit by a typhoon, that means as soon as my turn comes around again, I'm going to be repairing those 2 HP right away. And of course, I'm going to want to prioritize repairs on my medium tanks over my light tanks. I don't need to worry about having this flank exposed if I'm going to keep a medium tank on this property, because while a light tank will take significant damage from a mech, even on a city. Let's see, if he were attacking me from a river and I were a light tank on a city, yeah, he'd still deal 4 to 5 damage to me. But in these same conditions, a medium tank, he deals 1 less than 2 damage. And meanwhile, I eliminate him on the counterattack. So then that actually allows me to free up this tile so that I could move that infantry there to cover this spot in case of a more likely mechanized infantry push along the center here. This guy can go here to close up the line. Well, I'm not entirely sure what I really want to do here, but I do know that I do not want to get pinned in. So what I'll do is actually move that battleship out to there. This is the best position I could really find. It's out of range of Red's ships. Meanwhile, it's only in range of 2 artillery. One of them is an 8 help. It's in the safety, it's within the minimum distance of this artillery, and that gives me a good shot on his cruiser if I wanted to take a shot there, and then maybe follow up with some of these subs. But I do think for now I will keep 1 on this property just so that Red cannot capture this property. I'll also move this black boat here for now, and I will refuel this submarine, although it will look kind of like I'm resupplying this battleship. I doubt anyone will check close enough to tell. Man, I'm just really not sure how to respond down here in the south. If I built a battleship that could be seen as an act of aggression, plus that would be opening him up to take my battleship out in a single turn with this artillery and this ship here. Meanwhile, now that I've checked his advance with a black boat, a cruiser, and a lander, he might not advance any further, and he might not actually be looking to start a fight, especially since I give him these properties up here. Regardless, he's got 2 battleships to my 1, and I really don't want to let him start to outnumber me and outgun me in this bay down here. So what I can do is move this battleship 1 tile up like that to really threaten him off from trying to come any closer. If he does, he will be within range of my battleship, and then he's probably not expecting a follow-up sub right here. And if he's going to threaten my missile here with this battleship and with this artillery, I can just move him up that way and avoid that problem. So you know what, I do think here I do need a second battleship just to even things up a bit with him. And then another black boat will be important to actually maintaining this fleet and keeping it viable and competitive against anybody else. Well, I really like all my spare infantry units for now. I really do need to start considering whether I want to delete them for the unit cap space. Alright, and that puts me up to 99 population, so I think I will hold off there. I do want to at least keep 1 population spot open, just so that I always have the ability to produce a unit. I have enough money now where I can make any unit. Price is not the issue. And I have a lot of factories, so I could make that unit anywhere. So actually staying at 99 population cap at least threatens that I can put a new unit on the map, any of my factories of my choosing, and I can afford to make any unit. So I will hold off there, and that will do it for my turn. It's going to take us into Blue Moon's turn, start of day 49. Alrighty, well that's going to do it for this episode of the Grand Strategy Cast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. I'm really glad you enjoy it. I'm really glad you appreciate this sort of thing. If you're not a subscriber, maybe consider it so you can see a little bit more of my stuff. Show your support. Let the YouTube algorithm know that you think I'm doing a good job and that they should promote my content, because that's what it really comes down to. Hit the like button and leave a comment for the same reason. I mean, a comment, I just want to read what your comments are. What do you think? I hope you're enjoying it. You know, what would you do? That sort of thing. I love interacting with my community and seeing what you guys have to say. But also, that sort of engagement is really gonna drive growth, and then even more people get to enjoy this sort of thing. So thank you so much for that. And if you like this episode, then check out some of these other videos that I have made, including my entire Advance Wars by Web playlist. Alrighty, so go check those out. Enjoy. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.